Right, hello, the moment you've all been waiting for, the Dissecting Disney. Firstly, I apologise. I will try my best not to be late for webinars in the future. Things just kept popping up, and at the moment, I sound like a man because I have a cold. I'm not just an imposter on the women's only Facebook group, and I have a throat lozenge in my mouth. I'm not just nomming out whilst teaching you. But anyway, first thing is first. So, we are what we consume. So as a generation, we were brought up with Disney as like our childhood favourites. And yeah, so a lot of what we were watching has actually had an impact on how we grew up and how we think now. Which is all well and good, but it's our adult responsibility to now recognise these things, recognise them for what they are, which is just a Disney film, just kind of as black and white as you can, so that you can kind of dissect things in your own life yourself and move forward to kind of transform into a blossoming adult who has no kind of, who's full of self-love, isn't attracted to shitty people, and can just be the best, most authentic them. Anywho, off on a tangent, Ellie, as per. So, where I'm going to start is body image. Raise your hand if you saw a chunky Disney princess when we were younger. Or did we see a mermaid who looked hot as fuck with a fin, like with a fish tail somehow? Did we see Cinderella who just like, what does she train to get her waist like that? How many ribs has she removed to get her like waist like that? We've got Aurora. She like sleeps forever, doesn't eat, hasn't been given any kind of like nutrients somehow. She still just sleeps and then wakes up absolutely fine, not even groggy, nothing. So yeah, that's just kind of like rounding it up. So the Disney princesses specifically that us women grew up with all had that very small frame, tiny waist, bit of boobage, little bit of hip, no cellulite, no spots, no like imperfections, no wrinkles, nothing like that. And they were, also to note, the fairest. The main character was always focused on as being the most beautiful in the area that they were. So the Little Mermaid, obviously Ariel is the main character. She is the most beautiful of all of her sisters, hence she's her father's favourite. Cinderella, she's the most beautiful of all of them in that house, hence they chuck her into the cinders to make sure that she's dirty. They don't want her going to the ball because they know that she would get picked, and they kind of like, scrub her up. And then you've got Snow White, who's the fairest of them all. Snow White, I can't lie to thou, or whatever the words are. Like Snow White, she is physically the most beautiful one. And then you've got Beauty and the Beast. Her Belle literally translates to beauty. And she is the most beautiful girl in the village, hence Gaston is after her, and but she's just off doing her own thing. I quite like her, actually. She's like not impressed with you muscles, CBA. But yeah, and then who else have we got? Oh, I can't think. Anyway, I'm sure you get the gist. So they've, they're all like classed as like, beautiful, beautiful princesses, but they don't really touch too much on how they are as people. They say like, they're great to nature and stuff like that, but the outward look thing is that they are the most physically beautiful female kind of in that area. I'm going to apologise if my brain kind of turns off. Being ill has literally like fuzzed me. I think I'm doing okay though. The second thing to notice is that they all have toxic families. So, you know how, like, at the moment, there's a lot of movements that normalise this, normalise that, normalise breastfeeding, normalise women doing men's jobs, normalise normal bodies. There's all of these kind of hashtags that are going around, and that's because, like, really that shouldn't be a thing. Do you know what I mean? It's normal. Like, why do we have to hashtag normalise it and put it all over social media? But that's because of the whole idea that what we consume is what we believe is kind of normal. So when we were younger and we were consuming all of these characters, we were finding it normal that they had these toxic families. It wasn't something that we questioned. I mean, I definitely didn't question it. It was just normal. And I'm not just saying that's down to Disney, but I just mean that's an example of kind of one of the very little butterfly effects that puts together to make our generation the way they are. So, toxic families. So, for example, Ariel's dad was very controlling. You know, he told them where to be, where to go, hence Ariel got in trouble when she, like, went off. And then you've got Cinderella. Where was Cinderella? Well, Cinderella's mum died. I read Phoenix the book the other night, and I was like, whoa, wild. But Cinderella's mum died, and then obviously the dad got with the stepmom, and that's the evil stepmom with the evil stepsisters. Why did this dad not say anything when they're like, Cinderella, go sweep the floors, please? Like, why? Why is this dad not going, like, bitch, get out of my house? Like, why are you treating my daughter like that? But no, it was normal. It was fine. It was just what happened. You know, he got with this horrible lady, and that was the priority. Same with Snow White. Like, why was the dad not like, wait, my daughter keeps nearly getting killed as soon as my wife is, like, popping out after chatting to a mirror? Like, why was that normal? Why was there no question about, hang on, like, this isn't okay? This stepmom is literally trying to kill her stepdaughter for the sake of being the most beautiful in the land. Like, insane. I feel like I keep going to, like, the same examples, but I've just kind of, like, forgotten. Yeah, so you've also got Aurora. What was the deal with Aurora, Sleeping Beauty? It was that there was a fairy who was her mum, and then all the other fairy sisters came to give a gift, but one of them wasn't invited, so she just turned up and was like, right, you're going to die. And then the last fairy was like, well, I can't reverse that, but I'll soften the blow. She's just going to be asleep for 100 years. Like, and we don't question it. We're just like, yeah, cool. Thanks, auntie. Like, not a problem. Lots of toxic parenting there. But anyway, so, toxic families. But who is it in every single Disney story that comes along and rescues the princess from the toxic family? Who is it? That it's not Mr. Narcissist. It's not Mr. will treat you like shit. It's not Mr. is gonna love bomb you and then like control your finances. It's the handsome prince. Oh, and he is always handsome. Nothing to do with the absolutely gorgeous, like, beautiful internally, spiritual prince. Handsome. He's just fucking handsome. That's all we care. So that's another thing that I feel like as a generation we got brought up to think is that, okay, you have this toxic family, but you're still a princess, you know what I mean? You've still got hope. Hold on to that hope. It doesn't matter if you're cleaning the floors, it doesn't matter if you live with 7 tiny people. Ooh, what did I nearly say? 7 tiny people. We have hope. Life is going to get better because we are going to find our handsome prince. And I mean, Ariel, quite literally, like, this really winds me up when I kind of dissected it. So Ariel literally gives up her voice. She literally gives up her freedom of speech just for a pair of legs to go and meet that bloke. She had a beautiful singing voice, and she made a deal to give up her voice, her freedom, her opinion, her absolute right as a woman, just on the odd chance that she would meet this prince and fall in love with him. Yeah, she liked the earth. She always liked the earth. I get that. But she quite literally, if you put that in a modern day thing, in like a modern day real life situation, she quite literally shut herself up just in the hope that some man would like her. Not appreciating Ariel. Grow some balls, hun. Like, anyway, so we normalised and fantasised even that it's okay, we've had a rubbish childhood, we've been abused, we've been gaslit, this, that and the other. But the first guy that comes along, do any of them have exes? Like, the first guy that comes along that's gorgeous and says all the right things and will bring you into his kingdom, they're going to rescue you from this family. You're going to be whisked away with your glass slipper. You're going to turn into a human, live on a boat happily ever after. You are going to... Creepy, right? Snow White was like dead, and then the prince was like, yeah, can I have her? Like, she's gorgeous. She's dead, right? But we'll normalise the fact that he kissed this dead chick, and then she like was suddenly alive and was like, cool, I'm in love with you now. Same with Sleeping Beauty. She was asleep. Although there was another version where he kissed her just at the right time, like it just happened to be when them 100 years were up, which is like coincidence. Crazy. But yeah, what I feel also this whole idea did was narcissism is actually at its highest at the moment. So obviously narcissism is a personality disorder, narcissistic personality disorder, and it has been around for a really long time, but it's actually at its peak at the moment. Guess why? You're on it at the moment, social media. Without attention, narcissists kind of just die out. They're like little nits. If they don't get the blood, they just kind of die out. They just become they either have narcissistic rage where they demand the attention, or they kind of like take a step back. Can't remember what it's called, but they take a step back and they rethink their tactics, and then they'll kind of reassess and go for someone else. But for you, if you stop giving that narcissist attention, then they will just die out. But because of social media, narcissists have the chance to get attention from left, right and centre. Hence it's like they tend to cheat and stuff like that, because they can get their feed, they can get their supply, it's called narcissistic supply, from like multiple different places. They can get it from Facebook, Instagram, in person, at work, here, there and everywhere. So it's actually helped feed and grow narcissism, and narcissists tend to, I know I've gone off on a tangent from Disney, sorry guys. Narcissists tend to be bred from it's not over-loving, overbearing parents or neglectful parents, which funnily enough is also where the victims come from, but there's kind of a few thin lines depending on kind of if it's both parents, if it's just one parent, if it's a single parent, if there's counteractive parents, stuff like that. But yeah, they tend to come from either people who are relatively neglectful or that are overbearing. Quite literally went off on one there. What was I getting at? Yeah, narcissism is at an all-time high. But anyway, they know how to look out for their perfect victim. Like, if you are someone who's attracted a narcissist before, I guarantee you'll sit there and go, how do they keep sniffing me out? I remember I had before I went on my healing journey, I literally had a mental breakdown and was sitting there going, why does this keep happening to me? Why do I allow this? Why am I, compared to like all my friends who their boyfriends cheat on them and they're like, yeah, see you later, hun. Why can't I be like that? What is wrong with me? Why do they keep cheating on me? Why do they and I kept sitting there, as we all do, beating myself up, going, there's something wrong with me, there's something wrong with me. But what it is, yes, there was, in the sense that, like, I do take full responsibility that I had the healing to do to recognise my self-worth, to then stop attracting them. But Disney literally gave narcissists a story on how to get vulnerable women. So, like, they would look out for, they will assess you. Like, what's your support system like? Have you got friends? Have you got family? Have you had a rough past? Have you, they'll sniff this stuff out early on, and they'll work out where their boundaries are, which there aren't many. When you're someone that ends up letting a narcissist in, you tend to not have too many boundaries at the time. But Disney quite literally gave those kind of men the in on how to get their girl. Like, one is check their past, check their support system, check how they feel about themselves. Are they going to fall for this? Two, they tend to be, they're not all, or at least act like the like current good looking guy, the kind of guy that, they've got a bit of muscle, they've got a bit of character, they're a little bit cheeky, this, that and the other. Next, they act like they're going to bring you into their kingdom. They're going to treat you well. You're going to be their whole world. They're going to treat you like the princess that you are, that you always deserved. And they do that quite quickly. That's another thing you don't see in Disney. Like Cinderella danced with that bloke 3 times. They married him. Like, they've got to get in there quickly. They've got to snap you before you like I want to know how Ariel is now. I want to know how Cinder's is now. But they're not doing too good. But yeah, they took them, like, snap them up quick. Now they're yours. Now you've taken them, you've helped them, everything's fine, happily ever after, and that's exactly what you think. This bloke's quite fantastic, he fits the bill, he's like everything I ever wished for, he was my childhood dream, and now I'm going to live happily ever after. But actually that's when your nightmare begins. Right, the next point that I was going to make was how Disney films have now changed. So I don't know if you've seen any of the kind of newer Disney films, but one that a lot of people have seen is like maybe Frozen. So yes, they still have toxic parents in the sense that they're not there. They died, didn't they? What is with Disney and dead parents? But anyway, but that's a little bit more like girl power. Like, yes, initially she's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna marry this guy, the first guy I meet. Which one's that? Anna. And then she goes off, meets that bloke, and she actually has like a bit of a connection with him, but he's just some like guy like shoveling snow or something. I can't remember. But and he's like not the first guy he meets. He's not the handsome prince. He's just someone that she gets on with, and she's like, oh yeah, sorry, I'm promised to someone else, and then obviously he's who she ends up with because he's awesome, and it was all about the personality, not who he was, but who he was internally, which is like the message that I think Disney are now trying to like move it on to. There's obviously a Disney film called Moana. That is about, one, the girl is not super duper skinny. Yes, she's a child, therefore doesn't have, it's still not comparable, they're cartoons, but they are starting to kind of make these Disney characters not like these ridiculous body shapes and stuff like that. So, yeah, that's the first point. And two, what they actually, they do teach it a little bit, when in the old Disney films, but I'm not sure how well they did it, because I'm not too sure how intentional it was. I think it was just a story, and then like it kind of like followed it kind of like had a meaning underneath it all, like quite buried beneath. But like, whereas I think now Disney films quite consciously have a message. So with like the old Disney films, I feel like, oh, how rude, 2 seconds. Sorry about that, how rude of me. Yeah, so, yeah, in the old Disney movies, the message a lot of the time was, if you try and control your children, like the parent will always say, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't go up too close to the water, you can't, Lion King for example, go to that elephant graveyard, you can't do this, that and the other. Then they're going to rebel and do it anyway, and then it will turn out the best thing for them and they'll live happily ever after, which obviously is a good message. Not too sure our parents listened to it, but it was a good message. But now it's a lot more about kind of who you're meant to be, as opposed to, like, it will be, for example, Moana, obviously she is like just drawn to the water. There's something about it, she's just drawn to the water. But she doesn't know why, and her family keep telling her stop doing it. They won't tell her the truth. They don't really tell her like the backstory of it. They just say, no, don't go near the water. It's only her grandma that's like, yeah, go on, because grandma's cool. But yeah, like most they're going like, nope, you can't. And then eventually she does anyway, and she finds her calling. And she goes and like completes this big task that the whole island needed her to do, or whatever. And then the same with like Frozen. She spends all that time just sitting in the room, like avoiding her sister because she accidentally hurt her sister that one time, and her sister's there going, "Do you want to build a snowman?" And then that was quite impressive considering my jazzy snot nose right now. So she does like a little, she's hiding away who she is because she's scared of hurting people. She's scared of offending people. She's scared she's not going to fit in. So she hides away for years and years and years, and then eventually she comes out, and then what happens? She accidentally, shoots out ice because she can't help it. That's who she is. She's destined to shoot out ice. Anyway. And she runs off and she's like, finally, I can be me. And then that has a knock-on effect on everything. And then she realises, like, do you know what, Sod it, I'm just gonna be me. I'm just gonna let myself. Some people have a theory that like Frozen is a little bit it's kind of like normalising coming out as gay. Like a lot of people have got a theory that that's what that story is about, that it's like, they stay in a closet, quite literally staying in a room for however long, and then suddenly they're like, oh, let it go, and then everyone's like, oh, hates them for it and stuff like that, so they're like, oh, just go, I'll hide away, and then it turns out that's obviously not the best thing to do. She could actually just be herself and make it work, and people do end up accepting her. So yeah, Disney is changing. It is, like, there's also another, I think it's called Luca. I watched it with Phoenix, and it's basically, they say to him, like, no, don't come out of the water. You live in the water, don't come out of the water. And then he eventually does come out of the water, and then he has, like, an adventure, and then, like, his parents are like, look, sorry, we should never have kind of controlled you, we just want you to be happy. There is another one. What's the other one that I wanted to talk to you about, because it's pretty cool? Brave. If you've not seen Brave, watch Brave. Brave is about, like, the mum is again trying to, like, marry her off, and is telling her, kind of like modern Mulan, trying to marry her off, saying, you should be a woman, and she just wants to be an archer. She just wants to go around shooting arrows. And then she ends up being like, I am not marrying any of these pricks, not happening. And then the mum and her end up having like a massive argument, and then they fall out, and then she turns the mum into a bear somehow. I can't really remember. She turns the mum into a bear somehow, and then basically they like read this tapestry that's like been ripped, and it says that like they need to heal some form of relationship for the spell to become undone. So they think that they've got to like sew this tapestry back together, which I think they haven't. And it's spoiler alert. I'm so sorry. Just going off on one, telling you like the whole story of a film. Rude, Ellie. I'm so sorry. Anyway, moral of the story at the end is to kind of talk things through. So for the mum not to be so controlling, and the daughter and to kind of accept her daughter and talk things through, like your friendship and your love and your understanding of each other is far more important than how you are seen on the outside. So that's kind of the message. Although when we were younger, the messages weren't as clear, and they were a lot more had to be kind of debunked. They didn't, whereas like now I do think they're doing it better, although obviously you can't beat classics, but I do think they are doing it better for the now generation. Then I want to talk to you about like one Disney film in particular, kind of separate, because this is more like princesses and for women. So you've got The Lion King. Love The Lion King. So The Lion King is, I do really love the message of The Lion King. I mean, there's quite a complicated message to it that I won't go into, but the message about The Lion King that I really like. So it's something that us as a generation, or at least like my parents' generation, our generation has started to undo this a little bit. We're starting to communicate a little bit more, but the old generation tend to, sorry for that noise by the way, that's the baby monitor telling me that she's just having a wiggle. I can see her, it's fine. My baby, by the way. So it's so this huge thing happens. Simba is a child, and he is told that, like, he thinks he has killed his father, another dead parent, but that's a big deal, that's a big thing to take on as a kid. So instead of, like, checking out the story and going, hang on, because he's a kid, of course he's going to believe his uncle, like, he's just gone and his uncle does a good job of making him feel bad, because that's how you manipulate people, is make them feel bad, work on, like, they're guilty, how making them feel guilty. So, yeah, he runs away from his problems. He runs away, and instead of acting like a lion, instead of preying on other meats, instead of acting like a lion, he starts to act like a warthog or a meerkat. Hence the song Hakuna Matata, like, it means no worries, whatever happening over there, like, let's forget the fact that you're meant to be king of this place. Let's not worry about what on earth could be going on over there with your mum and your friends and whatever. Let's just go, whatever, sweep it under the carpet, Hakuna Matata, no worries, let's go eat some bugs. I know you're a lion, you don't really eat bugs, but you can eat bugs now, and you can pretend that, like, you don't have responsibilities. Let's just do that. And that is a lot of what our generation does. It does bury and rub under the carpet. It doesn't do a lot of kind of like, right, this is going to be a really difficult thing to do, but I need to face my problems. A lot of people bury in alcohol, social media, drugs, they bury in very unhealthy obsessions. They bury themselves in body image. They bury themselves in anything that they can other than internally, other than actually look at something. Like, a lot of people now, if they've done something wrong, if they've done something that they feel they cannot forgive themselves for, they will just bury that feeling. They will just make sure they never feel that feeling, which is Hakuna Matata. No worries, we're fine. And then, whereas actually the healthy thing to do, and something in my coaching I help people do, is to go, no, there isn't no worries. There really is something I need to work on here. And despite it's going to be one of the hardest things I ever do, which it was when he did come back and he had to face his family, and Scar turned around and said, "You killed Mufasa." And he was gone, "Yeah, shit, I did," kind of thing. And then everyone's like, oh, Simba. And then it turns out that he got it all wrong anyway, which is what happens, I'd say, like, part of the time anyway. You know, it turns out you got the wrong end of the stick. It's been a misunderstanding. It wasn't as bad as you thought. So yeah, it turns out he got it wrong anyway, and then he fights for his all these people who have had to suffer because he went, oh, whatever, no worries, I'll go bury myself. He then fought, and then he took over Pride Rock, and then lived happily ever after. So I do like the message of Lion King, although I think it could have been, you know, a little bit more clearer so that we could kind of follow it a bit better. But I do think that was obviously, I think that film came out literally the year I was born. So, you know, it is a good, I do think it kind of was part of setting our generation as the first generation, I think anyway, that really looks inside ourselves. Like, we do have kind of people to help that. We have much better access to therapy, be it expensive, and we should have more access to therapy. We have access to coaches, like me. We have access to podcasts, YouTube, all sorts of stuff that can help teach you. So we are a lot more of a self-reflective generation. So I did promise you that, so yeah, you may love or hate Disney. And part of why you may love or hate Disney is you may relate too much to it, or you may not like the messages. One of another kind of like side story that I think is quite another one that again is worth taking note for all of the parents and all of the people who've been parented, is Hansel and Gretel. I know Hansel and Gretel isn't Disney. It is a fairy tale, and I should really do a separate video on dissecting fairy tales, because there's probably a whole other, like, you know, part to that. But Hansel and Gretel is the story of the overbearing mother. So Jordan Peterson does a really good analysis of this, but I'll kind of break it down into kind of simple terms. I'm not saying you guys are simple, but I am. So what it is literally they're a brother and a sister. They go to that house where there's a witch, but she feeds them and goes, keep coming back, I'll keep giving you candy, if you keep coming back, and I'll keep on. And do you think she is giving that Hansel candy because she loves him, or because, I'm not saying that she doesn't love him, but do you think she's doing it because for him? She's doing it for her. She wants him to keep coming back, and if she, so sorry, I don't know what my camera's doing. Anyway, if they keep coming back, then he keeps feeding her. She keeps feeding him. And eventually, how does Hansel and Gretel end? It doesn't end well. It was never about him. It was never to make sure that he was fed. It was never to set him up well in life. It was never to do what was best for him. It was to fucking eat him. She wanted to eat him, which is like, it's a very good symbol for the overbearing mum. Like, they go, stay with me. And it's not because they want what's best for you. It's because they want you to stay with them so that they've always got you, so that they can eventually, you are going to morph into part of them and never leave their side. And this is where you find the 40-year-old men that still live with their mothers, or the or the narcissists that mums say, I'm sorry, they can't ever do wrong. But it's because they are a part of them. So if they've done something wrong, they have to admit that the way that they raised them and what they did was also wrong. So yeah, it's definitely, I'm not saying you should never watch Disney again. Watch Disney, especially the newer stuff. But when you're watching it, be mindful. Don't just watch it. Like, actually try and decode the message. Because if you can decode the message, then you can kind of like spell it out a little bit for your children so that they're set up well. You can kind of help use it to make yourself a better parent and a better person. I'm not saying you should use Disney as gospel, but they've got some really good messages in there. Like, for example, the whole fact of, like, you know, you can't tell your child who they're going to be. They're going to be whoever they're going to be. You birthed them, that's it. You kept them survived. You know, you are their survival for however long. But then as they turn into toddlers, children, teenagers, adults, they are fully their own person, and you need to let them go. Otherwise you are going to end up being, I'm sorry, but the witch from Hansel and Gretel. She's really scary as well. But yeah, it's just watch it, but watch stuff with that kind of like, oh, I want to decode this a little bit, because everything has, whether intentional or not, an ulterior motive. It's got like an inside message. And Disney, especially recently, are super duper good at giving some really, really cool messages that it's awesome that the next generation are going to grow up with. But anyway, I'm sorry if I bored you. I'm sorry if that was not as fun as you expected. And I fully hope it was. I literally had a few of you messaging me like, oh, where's this webinar? I was like, I did not realise you were waiting. Like, I really didn't realise you were waiting. But drop a comment below about what you might want in the next webinar. So I do want it bi-weekly. So obviously I cocked up and didn't do it this Saturday spin, but I will still do it, not this Saturday, but the Saturday after. I'll have a think as well. But yeah, drop any questions, any suggestions, even like challenge me if there's anything that you think like, actually you're not right there, Ellie. Like, I'm all for, one, debates, and two, being told that I'm wrong. I'm happy with that. And then yeah, I will see you in the next one. I've got a podcast coming out soon, as well as a YouTube series, so make sure that you check that out as well. And obviously, as always, if you would like to inquire about online coaching, then just drop me a message, or you can apply via my link tree, which is on my Instagram, which is coach_Ellie Corb, and or just like message me on Facebook. You're on the Facebook group, so awesome. Well, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.